Luke, how about you? Want to join us today?
Yeah.
At
Like that music, DJ Malachi. Nice. It's kind of chill for a snowy Monday morning, right? So, what kind of microphone am I using right now? I am using a... You know what? We're going to save that for the show, Grace. That's a great question. What kind of microphone am I using? I'm using a wireless, and it starts with a D. Malachi's got it. Okay, we're going to get into the show here in just a second. Why? Because we are in the Digital Media Arts Studio and the IT Academy at Jeff Tech in Reynoldsville, Pennsylvania. And I'm here with my posse, and it's a Monday. It's a snowy Monday, and the Digital Edge starts right now. Hit it, Lauren. Dig it. Right on time. Welcome to the Digital Media Arts program at Jeff Tech. My name is Mr. Otero, coming to you live with our class from our studio in the IT Academy. And what do we do here? Well, what we've done is this year we have transformed our 11-year-old digital media arts program into a live and living learning experience, a television show that we call the Digital Edge. And we are glad to be here today on this snowy day. Let's get a overview here of the studio so we can see the kids this morning. Say hey, everybody. What's going on? We are waiting for yet another what? Snowstorm. Exactly. So, the weather outside is very cool, right? The fire, there ain't no fire. But if we had a fire, it'd be so delightful. And let's bring up the B cam. Keep moving, right? Let's bring up that B cam angle over here and make sure that we got that correct. I don't think we do. Oh, that looks okay. And since there's no place to go, we're going to do another show. There we go. Did you like that? There we are. All right, so what are we talking about today? Let's go ahead and pull this up. Split screen it, please. Today, on the Digital Edge, live audio production, part 9, we're going to continue on looking at what the students are going to be doing in the next level. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, never mind. I thought of something, and then I realized that I shouldn't have been thinking about that at this particular time, and I was getting off track. I'm just going to give a shameless plug, by the way. If you notice I'm a little bit out of sorts, I actually never drink this stuff, and I had a huge Sheets coffee that I'm still nursing. So, not sponsored, absolutely, but I got to say, this is pretty magic. I don't know, but I'm having a really difficult time staying focused. So if you want to know why, blame it on the sheets, okay? So, not sponsored. Thank you, Malachi. All right, so let's try to get back on track here. Microphone principles today. The students have done tons of research. If you've been watching over the past few weeks, they've done research. They have looked into the background of audio production, the history of audio production, the technology of audio production, the systems of audio production. They've built their own dream podcast studio, given a fake budget of $1,000. All kinds of cool stuff happening there, and great work that you're going to see posted when we're done with this whole unit. You're going to see this posted in our student portfolio section of our website. So where are we today? We're going to go over to the next lesson that they're going to be working on, which is a transition from theory and from doing scratch tracks using little handheld recorders and whatnot, and Audacity, and a lot of kids did these their scratch commercials using Premiere, the audio section of Premiere Pro, which was cool. They learned the basics. They learned to manage tracks. They learned about gain control, learned about some adding digital effects. So now we're going to take it to the next level, and we're actually going to get in the professional level digital audio workstation utilizing Reaper, high-end, multi-track, digital mixer, and high-quality, large diaphragm condenser microphones. The students are then going to have an assignment to create their first professional level podcast using the materials that they generated thus far in the unit. So they won't be starting from scratch. They're going to be utilizing the essays that they wrote as the content for their podcast. They're going to be utilizing their radio commercials that they produced in the previous lessons as an injection of spots. Trey's eyes are getting really big. He's like, I didn't know that. I didn't know we were going to do all that. Well, now you know, and you're finding out on live TV. So let the panic ensue. Let's go to the, you guys are going to be fine. You already did the work. The only difference is you're going to go in the podcast booth. You're going to sit down. You're going to re-record your voiceovers. You're going to remix them like I told you last week, which will be a breeze for you. And you're going to use Reaper to create your first 3-track live podcast. And then you're going to work in teams to edit it up. Got it? That's the next step. Now, the next step past that is the final unit where we're going to go over some studio safety concerns. We're going to talk a little bit more about microphone technique and setup. And then we're going to explore in much greater detail podcast planning, journalism techniques, and principles. And we're going to actually then have you guys start from scratch and craft, plan, map out, and execute your own podcast based on a topic of your choice with a partner of your choice. That's the plan. Got it? That'll take us probably to the end of the quarter. And then fourth quarter here in Digital Media Arts program at Jeff Tech. What we do every year, career research, careers in digital media. Very exciting. So let's go to the first slide. We're going to take a look at what we're doing today. We're going to be discussing the podcast booth overview. We're going to give you a quick tour of our podcast booth, and there is Keaton, Paul, and Richie sitting in the podcast booth for a picture the other day, and what looks to be either a condenser mic or a ribbon microphone there. Nice graphics done by our team, by the way. I should give a real quick shout out before we continue. Mel Forrest and Trey Manzo and Malachi Woolbright and Lauren Wingert running the team today. Thank you so much for putting the show together and making this happen. And next slide, please. All right. What we were going to be doing today, but we ran into a firewall problem. We were going to be having our seniors, Lindsay Pierce and Ashley Seipel. They are preparing for their industry certification in NOCTI, which is a web design certification. The kids were going to be demonstrating in live time the setup of their DreamWeaver sites. It's the task that they had to attend to in their lesson. They had to go into DreamWeaver, set up the site structure, program in their FTP information, and utilize the FTP feature of DreamWeaver to upload and download the content for their websites, and then demonstrate that task. Well, we ran into a firewall issue here today in the studio, and I couldn't get into cPanel to set up their accounts for them here. So what we're going to do, Lindsay and Ashley are going to come on in their own time, use the studio, and they'll record their presentations so they can get the credit for that task. And then subsequent shows will just play their presentations as a pre-recorded clip. And they were happy because they got off the hook having to do a live presentation today. So that'll work out. All right, so upcoming show, Nocti review, DreamWeaver site setup, FTP programming. Next slide. And there's Lindsay, one of our talented seniors, and there's Ashley, one of our other talented seniors. So we'll be hearing from them with their presentations in the next Digital Edge. All right, so before we forget, what's it say? Mel, why don't we tell people what are we looking at here, and what is it we're asking them to not forget?
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jeff Tech Digital Media Arts. It is streaming the live stream right now.
Absolutely.
So don't forget to subscribe there for updates and uploads of past streams and content for our students.
Beginning of the show captured? There it is. Okay, there we go. We got it. Did you like that? Who was it? Sorry, guys. We had a network issue here in our scan converter, which brings our audio from our digital Behringer deck into vMix dropped. And who liked our handwritten sign? Who said very professional? And that was Grace's suggestion to put up a visual prompt letting you know that we had no audio. So we are back with audio. Thanks for hanging in there with us. So we want to, as Mel said, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share our content on YouTube. And we are creating a more interactive experience here using vMix social software, which we're going to be doing over subsequent shows. We don't have that running today because Lauren wasn't trained on that just yet, but we were going to be utilizing the YouTube discussions feature as well as Twitter feed and even Instagram as well in future episodes of The Digital Edge right here in the IT Academy at Jeff Tech. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so today on the show, what I want to do is, in subsequent lessons, we're going to get even more detail in this. We're going to do some, next year we'll actually have you guys do some audio production for music and talk about some different aspects of audio production, live, front of house mixing, things like that. But for right now, all I wanted to do was to review for the kids that did the podcasting unit last year, and for the new students, I just want to review the different kinds of microphones, the different types of microphones, the styles of mics, their general application in the industry, so that you understand what it is you're looking at, what it is, what the primary differences between the styles and the types and how you utilize them, And as you're moving forward here toward the end of the year, you do your career research projects, you're going to have a cursory understanding, at least a basic understanding of what the right kind of microphone is for the job and how they applies to what it is I'm asking you to do. So we're talking about condenser microphones, dynamic microphones, and ribbon mics. Now, ribbon mics are, they're kind of going out of vogue, not something that is utilized all that often in the industry anymore. Basically, what we're looking at, the two primary types of microphones that are utilized are condenser mics and dynamic mics. All microphones work on the same principle. Now, we've talked about this before, right? We speak, our vocal cords vibrate, our mouths form the words, the waves go out into the ether, and they propagate like waves on the ocean. What? Whoa. We're at the beach now. How'd we get there? So, because we do deviate a lot here, don't we? All right, so the waves propagate out, and then somebody's ears, like Jared. Give me a shot of Jared here. Give me the studio cam. There he is. Night. Oh, look at that. He's got his soundproof. He's employed his soundproofing technology to try to cut out my audio waves that are propagating across the studio and coming into his ears. I don't need to talk louder because I talk loud enough, don't I, Jared? I don't even need a microphone, do I, Jared? So the waves are propagating across through the ether and into the boy's ear. And he's listening and he is absorbing all the knowledge that is contained in those sound waves. Yes? Maybe not. Okay. So anyway, so what happens when you speak into a microphone? The waves, the air is waving in the form of the words. The wave hits the diaphragm in the microphone. And like a piece of paper, if I blow on it, it's magic. Look at that. What happens? The piece of paper vibrates. Right? Did you ever? Okay. Exactly. So now what's happening? Inside these microphones, there's a little thin sheet of metallic material. Sometimes it's, there's a variety of different materials that can be utilized for what we call the diaphragm. It's a little plate that's in there. It's suspended in some way, one way or another, depending on the type of the microphone. The microphone, the plate vibrates in response to the sound waves hitting the diaphragm. Then the electronic circuitry in the microphone takes that vibration and it converts it into an electrical signal. So, depending on the condenser mic and the dynamic mic, like I said, down the road we'll get more into detail with how these things work. The circuitry is different. They operate slightly differently, but the principle is the same. The diaphragm vibrates. The sound wave is translated into an electronic signal. The electronic signal is then transferred into what? What's the next component in the signal chain, kids? Remember? The mixer or the digital audio interface. Or if you're doing live sound, well, it would still be the mixer, and then that would go to a power amp into the speakers, right? So the bottom line is the signal is converted into an electronic signal. It is then recorded in our digital audio workstation as a what? Starts with a what? W? A what form? A waveform. Excellent. That's where the producer can then go through, edit it up, chop it up, add effects to it, mix it, right? So, condenser microphones, dynamic microphones, that's what we're primarily going to be talking about. If we go to our YouTube channel, if you would, now we set up a playlist for you guys. You can check out our show there where we give additional resources that you can use. And right there, we have different types of microphones. There's a 1 minute and 54-second video. This guy knows how to be brief, unlike me. So, very nice microphone overview as to the different types of mics and how they're utilized within the industry. We also have the polar pickup patterns. There's a short video, 3 minute and 45 seconds there as well, which you can watch, and that's going to give you a little bit more information as to the pickup patterns meaning how the microphone characteristics translate to where you're speaking. Did you notice here? Like, for instance, this pickup pattern on this microphone is a certain kind, and I'm talking right into the microphone. Let's go bring up the A cam. Now, if I turn it this way, watch how listen how my vocals are not as present, right? Now I'm coming back. Why? If I go and I turn the microphone like this, it's still picking me up solid. If I turn it this way, why is it deadening? We're going to talk about that in a second when we get to pickup patterns. So let's talk about condenser microphones and dynamic microphones. Dynamic microphones are primarily utilized for live production and or in the studio. Due to the nature of the microphone, the pickup, the characteristics of the microphone, and the size of the diaphragm, and just their build, their style, they are more applicable and much more, the utility is much higher for live production, live speaking, live presenting, and for music, live music. This kind of microphone, you see this, it's a handheld style. And actually, give me one of these over here. This is a style of a handheld as well, which it's also, the question in the show was, what is that, a dynamic mic or a condenser mic? What I'm holding in my hand is actually a dynamic microphone as well. So this is a typical dynamic microphone. We can see here. Why don't you hold that up in front of the camera, in front of the B cam? That's a typical handheld styled dynamic microphone. And if we take that apart, let's take a look at this on the inside. If I take the capsule apart here, and we take the top off, which is our windscreen, we can actually see the microphone element on the inside. That is your short little diaphragm, your about a 1-inch diaphragm in there, and you can see the wires which are converting that into the circuitry, into the microphone, unpowered, mind you. Now, how these things work is you're going to utilize this with an XLR cable, which connects then 3-prong cable, which connects into a mixer or some other type of device, which is going to add gain to the microphone. Now, the styles of the mics, we'll get into this in a second. These things are really, again, they're designed primarily for live music and live speaking productions. That's why you see this kind of microphone on a stage versus this kind of microphone on a stage. Now, what do we have here? Anybody want to tell me? You remember? It's a condenser mic. Very good, Grace. Anybody know what kind of condenser mic? Large. Excellent. Grace gets a gold star. Large diaphragm condenser. Now, here's where I'm going to throw one at you. We're getting into the styles of microphones here in a second. Now, the large diaphragm condenser is utilized primarily for studio productions and voice and very dynamic range instruments, such as a guitar, a nice acoustic guitar. It has a large diaphragm in here, and we can see this. Give me that B cam. If I take off I can't see this in here. It has a large diaphragm, which is about 1 inch. I believe it's 1 1/4 inch diaphragm inside that capsule. And it's a front and back pickup pattern. So you could actually have two people, if Mel and I were singing on this, two people are going to be able to be picked up from this. And we have some other large diaphragm microphones as well in our studio, podcasting studio, which we're going to show you and the kids are going to utilize. So again, I'm not going to get into this too deeply, but you need to understand these kind of microphones require what we call phantom power. So they work utilizing a standard XLR connection as well, but they can also work using an 1/8 inch connection. Like this is what kind of microphone, kids? The style is a shotgun mic. We'll get into the different styles here in a second, but the kind of the microphone, the type of the microphone is dynamic or condenser. It's actually a condenser mic. It's just styled differently. The diaphragm is in a different location. It's much smaller. It's designed to pick up a much more narrow range of frequencies, whereas the large diaphragm microphone is designed to pick up much larger range of frequencies from the bass all the way up to the treble. You're going to get a much broader dynamic range with a large diaphragm condenser mic than you would a smaller diaphragm condenser mic. Now, some of you are looking at me going, well, wait a minute, give me that beat cam. Isn't that a dynamic mic, Mr. E? No, it's not. This is actually an electric condenser microphone styled in the style of a handheld dynamic microphone. So, important to know, just because a microphone looks the way that it does, doesn't mean that it's what you might think it might be. How do you know the difference? Well, this one, if you open up the capsule, this requires a battery. It requires power. If you grab this thinking it's a dynamic microphone and you plug it in and you're not getting anything and it's turned on, you're going, what's going on? What's going on, right? You go to your mixer, you take a look at it, you determine that it's a condenser microphone, it needs power, turn on the 48K phantom power on the mixer, that little electrical signal then goes through the XLR cable, and it lights up your microphone, brings it to life. Or you can just make sure that the battery is installed correctly. Okay? So, just some things to consider as you're moving forward. Now, let's get into some of the types of the microphones. We've already alluded to them here. As you can see here, the graphic that the kids put together, give me the split screen and then the full screen. Keeping an eye on the time here. So we take a look at that. There are large diaphragm mics. There are capsule mics. There are handheld mics. There are shotgun mics, and there's different styles for these. These are all short shotguns that are used in video production. Go ahead. Bring me back here to the B cam. Like here's a very nice $400 Rode shotgun mic that's used for video. Here is a $100 short shotgun Asden mic, which is used for video with a shock mount that can be mounted onto a camcorder. Here we have shotgun mic, yes? Actually, no. This is a short stereo dynamic microphone that is utilized for a particular Canon camcorder that we have here. Here we have our dynamic microphones, handheld, again, handheld style. And there's another style that we want to talk about. This is actually a different type of microphone. You don't see this very often. This is a transducer kind of microphone. We'll talk about that in another time. Basically, what this is a metal plate that they utilize these types of microphones sometimes for conferencing. This metal plate will actually pick up vibrations from, say, a conference table. So people sitting around a conference room, you can go back to the main A-cam, sitting around a table or a desk with the plate sitting on there, when they're speaking, the desk is absorbing the sound waves, and it propagates through, and this very, very, very sensitive microphone then translates that vibration into sound. So that's a different style of microphone. It's actually a different type, too. The transducer is a different technology. And then we have, what do we have here? Anybody remember what this is? Bring us to the B cam. We'll take a look there. What are we looking at there? It is a guest microphone for our studio, yeah. But what do we call this? Anybody took the podcasting unit last year? Do you know, Luke? Give him a microphone. It is a wireless mic. Go ahead.
It's a wireless lapel mic.
It is excellent. Luke gets the other gold star for the day. Good job, son. This is a wireless body pack, which is needed to, you need to have power in here. And this is wireless too, but we're going to throw you a little bit of a curve. Now, condenser mic or dynamic mic on this little pod right here, the little mic. Go ahead and pull that up. It's called a lapel mic because this little thing gets clipped on to the lapel, right? So we see this used in studios. The application is it's hiding it. Speakers that are giving presentations or in the studio, you don't want the microphone to be seen as much, but it's very sensitive and it gives you decent quality, small diaphragm optimized for picking up the frequencies of the human voice. But where does the battery and the power come in? Same with this. Just because a microphone you want to go back to the ACAM, please? Just because a microphone utilizes batteries doesn't mean it's a condenser mic, does it? How are the batteries utilized in this body pack, for instance? What's the purpose of that? What is the purpose of the batteries that are in this microphone, kids? What is it? The purpose of the batteries, the electric, is what? Power for what purpose? Is it to power a condenser mic? No, because it's not a condenser mic. It's a dynamic mic. It's a different circuitry. The batteries are used for what purpose? What? It's wireless, right? We don't have a wire connected to this. So we have to get the signal from the microphone somehow through the glass into the digital Behringer mixer, yes? How are we doing that? No, magic, right? Through the magic of wireless. So what is in here is a wireless transmitter. It's a radio frequency transmitter. The microphone is dynamic and is not utilizing the battery power for the purpose of conversion of the signal. It's a dynamic microphone. It's not a condenser microphone. Then the capsule is powered and it's programmed to a certain radio frequency, and the receiver is inside our audio production booth there, and it's receiving the wireless signal. That's the purpose of the batteries in here, not to power a condenser mic, because it's not a condenser mic. Now, suppose you have a condenser microphone and you want to make it wireless. We have these handy-dandy little devices here, which is a radio transmitter. This came with our True Diversity high-quality Sony pack that we use for field production. And you can take this, and you see this sometimes in the field when you see people out working. This will take a high-end UHF signal and convert the shotgun mic signal, which needs battery inside the shotgun mic, right? It'll convert then that signal, because that's a condenser mic. It'll convert that signal to wireless, which can then be also transmuted through the air into a receiver. Then you see this a lot here. This would come in handy. Hold this. Here, take this. This will come in handy out in the field. If you don't want to be tied down with wires, you can use your fish pole. And if you're doing field production for a movie or for a television show, you would hold this out if you were the audio engineer, and you would point it, because it's very unidirectional, at the source of the sound and capture a conversation between two people. And because of the wireless pack on there, it is a wireless signal, freeing you up from having to use wires and being entangled with that. Okay, let's talk about polar pickup patterns. Oh, here we go. These are the different styles of the microphones like we talked about. Shotgun mic, mainly used for speeches and for capturing voice out in the field. Large diaphragm condenser microphones, generally used for recording vocals and acoustic style instruments in the studio. Lavalier and lapel mics, generally used to get clear audio without being seen. Typo there. And handheld microphones used for recording vocals, for speeches, live presentations, and for live music. And then the transducer microphones that we were discussing earlier. Next step. All right, so how do these things work? We talked about this. Hypercardioid directional, cardioid directional, and polar directional. So we're talking about a shotgun microphone. It's called a shotgun microphone. Why, guys? Luke's got it. Give him that mic. Go ahead.
It's like a shotgun barrel.
It looks like a shotgun barrel, exactly. If you go ahead and put this up to the B-cam, you can see the ribs there. What the ribs do, the diaphragm is on the tip of the microphone. So if we were pointing this at the source of the sound, say Mel's voice, for instance, go ahead and bring up the A-cam and zoom in on Melody. Give me a zoom. There you go. If we were going to hang this above her and we're pointing it directly at the source of the sound, it's going to be picking up in a very narrow pattern. Take a look at the polar directional pattern. And you can see that is a, you want to bring that up, please? There you go. Polar directional. That is going to produce a very narrow conical pickup pattern, and it's going to be filtering out what we call ambient sound. So if I'm pointing it at Mel and I'm talking off to the side, it's going to be, it'll be picking it up, but it's going to be very, very, very muffled. So these pick up a very narrow pattern. If you think of a cone, if my microphone were a cone, it'll expand out, of course, and it'll capture sound pointed at, or sound from the source that it's pointed at, filtering out a lot of the ambient sounds. If we take a look at the other cardioid patterns and hypercardioid patterns, go back. Cardioid directional. This, what do you think this is? Look at the hypercardioid directional and cardioid directional. Okay, it's picking up, the hypercardioid is picking up also in the back a little bit, isn't it? If we look at the front of the microphone is the top of the diagram. Cardioid directional, what do you think this one is? Hypercardioid or cardioid? If I'm talking directly into the front of the mic, very strong signal. If I go off axis and I'm toward the back and the side, it's hardly picking me up at all, is it? Right? So would that be a hypercardioid directional or a cardioid directional? What do you think? Cardioid, exactly. Because if it were a hypercardioid, you would be hearing more back here. Okay? So, again, the application, the type of the microphone you're using, you want to pick the right microphone for the job. So how would we utilize a cardioid microphone? Like what we're doing right now. Speech, right? We don't want to be capturing ambient sound of my hands hitting here or papers in my hand, right? If I'm doing a cast like this, you're not going to be hearing that as loudly as you would if it were a hypercardioid directional microphone style. Go ahead, next one. Bidirectional. This is what we were talking about with the Rode mic, front and back. Okay, so we can actually have two people talking in the front and the back. And most of our condenser microphones in the studio are that kind of mic. Omnidirectional. What does omni mean? Right. 360 degrees. It picks up sound equally from 360 degree pickup pattern. Would be useful for how? How would you utilize something like that? Potentially, yeah. Maybe on a movie set, if you want to capture a lot of ambient sound, right? For what's happening on the set, for creation of sound effects and things like that. What about, or ambient sound for set design? What about, or sound design, I should say? What about in a recording studio, perhaps? Maybe you got 4 or 5 people that want to be standing around in an old school type recording, you know, where they're doing like an a cappella thing and they're all standing around one microphone. You can get 3 or 4 people around a mic like that. You're only, granted, you would only be getting one source and not have multi-track control, but it is possible to use it for that kind of use. Okay, thanks. Good job, guys, grabbing that information. And of course, you can go back and you can watch the polar pickup pattern video that we have on our YouTube playlist as well. And I think we got about 10 minutes. We got 5 minutes before the bell rings. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get in and we're going to introduce what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce what the students are going to do here in the next lesson. The bell's going to ring. I want you guys to bring in our enrichment kids, and then you all can watch the demonstration from this video. If you're not in my enrichment, you can watch this demonstration then tomorrow. Does that make sense? So here's what you're going to do. In a few minutes, the next lesson plan is here, and these are the tasks that are associated with it. You are going to, Audio 101, the task. You're going to collaborate with peers. Task 1401. You are going to collaborate with peers to develop and design content plans. This task goes to your essay, Analyzing the Impact of Information Technology on Society. That's level 1 and 2. Levels 2 and 3, which is juniors and sophomores, students are going to demonstrate knowledge of the process of basic recording sound reinforcement. Students will show the ability to edit the recorded material on different media, showing the ability to design, create audio productions for desired mood and effect, and demonstrating the ability to communicate effectively through oral, written, and visual expression. Now, yes, I know what you're saying. We've worked on these tasks prior. You have. These apply now to, rather than the scratch field productions you've been doing, to the studio productions. So we're just ramping it up, and there's going to be more expected of you on those same basic tasks. So what does all this mean? Collaborate with others and develop about design and content plans? Here's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about this, which is your podcast practice session. So this is your performance objective. Number 1, students, make sure you guys get the kids coming in for enrichment in here, please. Students will work in teams of 3 to craft, plan, and create a 2-minute news style editorial opinion podcast on the topic which was addressed in the previous essay assignment. So what was that? Students created an essay on the impact of podcasting technologies on our society as a whole, and whether these technologies have had a negative or a positive impact on our society in terms of social dynamics or even our economy. So the job here, here's how it's going to go. This is what I am expecting of you. You guys are going to team up with 3 people, okay? So for instance, Ethan and Malachi and Kevin here may get together. They're going to take one of their essays that they utilized. Everybody's going to take their essays. They're going to go in the podcasting booth, and they're going to have their essays there as informational prompts, and they're going to have a conversation about what they researched in their previous essay assignments, which was the impact of the history and the impact of podcasting on our society. You getting it? Yes? Excellent. So you're going to have a seat and you're going to record, and the student must contribute sufficiently to the conversation in order to get the task credit. So I'm not going to accept, 2 students talking and 1 student sitting there and doing nothing. You got to contribute, and the contribution should be reflected in your essay that you turned in weeks ago. Are you following me? Yes, excellent. And not just sitting and reading it. You're going to have a discussion about it. Let's make sure. Hey, Nalia, you want to make sure everybody comes on in, please? The main podcasting studio must be used to record the raw audio tracks using Reaper as demonstrated. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you today. You need to practice it all this week, and by the end of the week, you should be able to have this wrapped up. Now, I'll explain to you what that means with the raw audio and how to save those WAV files for you here in just a second. The story should be split then into 2 60-second segments with segment breaks given orally. As an example, we'll be back after these brief sponsor messages. And then at the end of that break, welcome back to the Blah X podcast, where we're talking about the impacts on this technology on our society, etc., etc., etc. Now, what are you going to do in those commercial breaks? What do you think you're going to do? You're going to insert the commercials that you created in the previous plans, right? So what are we going to do? What's up, guys? We got our enrichment kids coming in, which are several students from the afternoon class. So my morning kids that left, you guys can finish watching this presentation later on today or tomorrow, and you guys can watch the first half of it as to what we set up to this point, and then we'll work together in the studio today to enhance these things. All right, so you're going to insert commercial breaks into your podcast. So the topic of the podcast, the impact of podcasting on society, you're going to insert a commercial break, and in that commercial break, you're going to insert your main commercials that you produced from last assignment. So we did a digital media arts 1-minute commercial, and we did a 30-second diesel commercial. You're going to re-record your voiceovers in the audio booth using the good quality mics, finish those productions, then insert those 2 commercials into your practice podcast. A 1-minute segment of your podcast, you're going to talk for a minute. Then you're going to insert your commercials. Then you're going to have another minute. This is just a short practice. Does all this make sense? And I'm going to demonstrate it here in just a second. Okay? That's your goal this week. Got it? Excellent. And the tasks tied to that. Then the next step is where we're going to practice researching skills, some journalism skills. Troy, welcome to the show. Hi. And how to map and plan out a podcast from the beginning, where you're deciding on the content, you're deciding on the big ideas, you're deciding on the research you're using, and you're deciding on the team member that you're going to work with to produce the multi-track podcast, and you're going to create your own long-form podcast in multi-track form, and then export that as a streaming media file in MP3 format and place it up on your portfolio page. That's the plan, where we're going from here. All make sense? Awesome. So, DJ Malachi, let's bring up the next segment here. Mel, we're going to bring up the graphic, and we're going to go into the podcasting booth, and we're going to show you what it is I'm expecting of you. But before we do that, we want to remind you, like our digital media arts program at Jeff Tech on Facebook. Bring it up, please. Bring up the screen. There we go. Like us on Facebook at Jeff Tech DMA. So just look us up, Digital Media Arts at Jeff Tech. You can capture behind-the-scenes footage, our live streams, and help us promote our wonderful program. We are accepting applications for next school year. We are one of the more popular programs in the school, and every year our slots are relatively limited. So you want to, if you're thinking of coming here next year, you want to come in, take a tour, join us next week on the 20th for our open house, and then get in touch with us, get in touch with your school's guidance department, get your application in early so we can reserve a spot for you next year in the Digital Media Arts Studio. Excellent. Like that chill music, DJ. Good job. All right. Also, I want to remind you, we have set up a class Twitter account, and we're not utilizing it right now. I know Paul just came in, and they set up the VMix social integration, but we'll be working that into the AM crew here in the next show. Nice job on that. But in the meantime, you can go to Twitter, and you can follow us at Jeff Tech DMA. Also, we have an Instagram account. I don't know if we have a oh, we do. Look at that. The kids got it. Jeff Tech Digital Media Arts on Instagram, where we post all sorts of fun little behind-the-scenes videos and pictures, and promote how the students do what it is that they do. And you get to know the personalities there a little bit better, and the kids can demonstrate what they got going on, and hopefully somebody out there is an employer that might be looking to hire one of my talented digital media students. You get in touch with me, talk about a cooperative education position, and really help these kids launch their career. So follow us on all of our social media channels. Great job in bringing up those graphics, kids. All right, let's get into the audio production suite. Go ahead and pull that up. Oh, one last bit of noise we want to remind you of. Take a live studio tour and see all these amazing technologies in action. Join us February 20th at 5:30 p.m. And now it's not just a digital media arts event. This is the school-wide, what we call our recruiting fair every year, where all 14 shop areas and all the academic classes are open, and you get to meet the teachers and see the students working live in their program areas. So we expect to see the studio packed, as it usually is during our annual recruiting fair, February 20th, 5:30 in the p.m. Okay, bring up the split screen. Are we finally at the podcast? Lots of news to read today. Oh, no, we're not at the podcasting yet. Another bit of Jeff Tech news. The career fair, our annual career fair, where you can check out all 14 CTE programs and dozens of local employers who come into our school, and they show their businesses to our students who are shopping and looking for careers, and their employers are here to shake hands and to teach the students about what it is that they do in their businesses. And we, of course, doing what we do for our school, we broadcast that live every year. February 28th. More information on the times, and we'll be going live in subsequent shows. Okay. Are we at the podcasting unit yet? There was a slide somewhere. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my cell phone, and we're going to turn on this nice technology. Lauren, if you would, bring me up a split screen with my cell phone in there. And Jaden, you got a good steady hand, or one of you guys do, right? No. What do you mean no? You're teenagers. You got to be good with cameras. Is my shooting hand? It's all shaky. All right, let's see that again. There's Paul. You got. Oh, come on, guys. You got to have more stable hands than that. All right, so what we're using here is our vMix call technology, where we are bringing in audio and video from a cell phone feed. So, oh, by the way, if anybody out there in the real world would like to come on the show and have my students interview you, we can do so using this technology from anywhere in the world. You don't works with a laptop, with a computer, webcam, and or cell phone. So I'm going to go into the audio podcasting booth, and I'm going to demonstrate for you what I'm expecting in terms of the setup and the recording of your multi-track podcast assignment. Got it? Yes? It's so exciting. I know. Look how excited they are. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah, Paul. I like it. Okay, here. Hold that. Yes, Jaden, you're not excited enough. Okay, we're going to go ahead and mount this thing back in. We're going to go back into the podcasting booth. And if you pull up the audio on that machine, you guys can watch this from here. Sound good? All right, cool. Come on in. All right, so. Okay, Graham, would you come here for a minute? Okay, well, she's fine. You're not going to be on camera. I'm going to ask you to hold this microphone for me. All right. So, bring it over here. So, what we're doing here, first off, I'm going to put this Rode microphone back on its cage. Well, it's in the cage. We're putting it back on the studio arm. So, okay, and we're going to plug it back in with the XLR cable. There we go. So now we got that. All right, so this is our audio podcasting booth, and what we have here are 3 stations with computers. We've got a broadcast quality Audio Technica microphone, large diaphragm with a shotgun mic and reticulating arm with shock mount, and we have a high quality broadcaster, Rode broadcaster microphone, again with a quality shock mount and reticulating arm, and of course another Audio Technica large diaphragm condenser microphone, again with a shock mount and studio boom arm. So, well, here's what I'm expecting of my students. Jaden, I want you to come around here, and you're going to hold that camera right here for me. So we have a picture-in-picture. Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do, can you guys see you guys have the Reaper screen capture? Excellent. First thing you're going to do, you're going to open up Reaper in the podcast booth. Now, one thing I do want you to understand, let's look at the interface that we have here. This is an older, we're replacing everything with the new Behringer stuff. This is an older Yamaha 1394 digital Firewire mixer, and we only have it set up for audio pass-through. So the EQ sections and the compression in the board and the faders aren't working on here. So it's just setting the raw signal in digital form, 24-bit audio, directly into Reaper in multi-track form, and the kids can control the audio gain here. So they're going to want to make sure that their sources are not clipping by controlling the gain here, depending on the characteristics of the microphone. So these aspects of the mixer are not working. So we have channel 1, 2, 3, and then, of course, channel 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to point that over here, right? So microphone 1, microphone 2, microphone 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to set up Reaper now. This is my mic. We're going to go ahead and we are going to access Reaper. we're going to go in, we're going to say save project as, and we're going to set up a new project. Now, what I want the students to do is they're going to save their project in their individual shares on our DMA server, and they know how to do that. And what I'm going to do is an illustration. I'm just going to go into DMA student Dropbox where we're putting our information for this plan, and we're going to find Reaper Podcast 1. So what I want my students to do, they're going to do a save as in Reaper and save their Reaper profile. We're going to right click, we're going to say new folder, and we're going to call it Reaper Podcast 1 because this is the first podcast project we're going to do using the Reaper Multitrack Recording Studio. We are then going to go into that folder and we're going to name it Reaper Practice 1. So we're going to name the project Reaper Practice 1 and we're going to hit save. Now, what we did there was we told Reaper we saved the Reaper file into the student's share so they can then open that anywhere on our network, on our virtual machines, out in the workstations, and then they can share it with their teammates, which I'm going to show you here in a second. Now, to activate, and they want to load up their deck here with their multi-track recording. So we're going to go track. We're doing 3 tracks, right? So we're going to add 3 new tracks. Insert new track. What? Spit it out. Switch my screen to what? What's the problem, guys? What's the issue? What is it looking like out there, guys? I don't know. What's the problem, Mel?
Okay, so whenever you went to go show us that you're doing that, we can't see the menus here, so we need to switch the scan converter to the whole desktop, not just Reaper.
Well, you guys not catching that there in vMix? Well, what does it look like in vMix?
It's just the Reaper screen.
Well, but that's all I want to show you is the Reaper screen.
I know, but like they can't see the menu. They can't see the menus and things like here. Like I'm. Okay. Hold on.
Maybe it's cropped.
That shouldn't.
So maybe in the NDI source you want to change, instead of Reaper, you want to change to desktop. Do you see what I'm saying? You got it? Okay. What we're doing, apparently, there's three different screens, outputs from this NDI source in the audio booth, and they're readjusting so that you can get the full screen effect and capture the menu drop downs, which we weren't getting apparently before. So now they're resetting my picture-in-picture. There we go, and I'll just reset this process. Okay, bring that back down, kids. Okay, that looks good to me. Okay, so let's do that again just so everybody sees it. We would open up Reaper. We would go File, Save Project As. And Melody, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. We're going to go to DMA, Student Dropbox, Audio Production Podcasting, Reaper Podcast 1, set up our folder. Now, that would be, if it was Jaden's project, that would be in his share. If it were Graham's project, that would be in his share. You understand that. So we're going to copy and paste that network location string, and I'll show you why in just a second. So we're going to save, called Reaper Practice 1. Now, we've saved that into the student's share for future editing. We're going to now insert our 3 tracks, insert new track 1, insert new track 2, insert new track 3. We're then going to activate each of the tracks in Reaper utilizing this dropdown. This is the N12, the Yamaha N12 direct out from channel 1, mono source is selected. Channel 2, mono source is selected. Channel 3, mono source is selected. Now we're going to arm each of those tracks by hitting the red arm button. Boom, boom, boom. And you're going to see the 3 microphones bopping there in real time. So there is my channel 1 microphone right here. And then if Jaden goes ahead, go on over there, and let's have you talk into that one, Jaden. There we go. And then number 3 over there. There we go. Now, here, hold this. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off my handheld mic. Do you guys have audio from the podcasting suite here? Let's test it. Check 1, 2. There you go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we switched to the audio podcasting audio feed, and I turned off my handheld mic. Let's get, give me a couple kids. Give me 2 kids in there in the studio. Tell them to come on in here. Just give me 2. Give me Paul. Okay. You're not going to be on camera, guys. Say please. Richie's got it. Richie's the brave one. All right, Richie, grab a seat there, and you're going to jump on the, well, you can stand. That's fine. And somebody else grab that other microphone. Oh, Trey, cool. Either one of you guys, go ahead and jump on that other microphone. Now, here's what we're going to do. The students are going to set up their mics, and they're going to make sure that they're not clipping. So what did we do? When I was talking, check 1, 2. You see that red? That's indicating that it's clipping. So what are we going to do? Jaden, you want to grab that track 1 trim and turn that down up top. Turn it down a little bit. Check, 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 check. There we go. Now we're not clipping. We've got good, strong signal. Richie, go ahead and check your mic.
Check, check, check.
Looks good. And Trey, hit it.
Check, check, check.
Okay, he's clipping, so take channel 3 and turn that down about 20%. And Trey again.
Check, check, check.
Excellent. Looks good. Okay, now, here is what you guys are going to do. We're going to model this. You're going to conduct your practice broadcast, again, based on the content that you gathered in your essays on the history and the impact of podcasting on our society. Got it? So, welcome to today's podcast. My name is Sam Otero, and I'm here with Richie Morris and Trey Manzo. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
It is good to be here. Now, before we do that, I forgot to hit the record button because we have our tracks live. We're going to record. Now, you can see the waveforms for the microphones are being saved. Oh, one last thing I forgot to show. Remember I said to you to copy and paste your network location string? This is very important. Why did I do that? You have to go up to Options, Preferences, and you're going to find the default recording path. And you're going to wipe that out, and you're going to paste in that string that you had set up in your own share. Why are we doing that? So when Reaper records each individual voice as an individual waveform file, it's placing it in the project folder. So you have access to it, and it's not on this desktop. You can see here, show the desktop. Look at this. This is what happens when the students don't do this. See all these waveforms? These are all previous recordings that were dumped on the desktop as the default location. And that's not going to work. You want the location of the recording path to be set appropriately so that you have access to your files. That all make sense, guys? All right, cool. So I'm going to hit OK and apply. Now I'm going to hit record. And we're going to set up. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Sam Otero, and today we're talking about the history and the impact of podcasting on our society. Welcome to the show, Richie Morris.
Hello.
And welcome to the show, Trey Manzo.
Great to be here.
Great to be here. Trey, tell us, how did audio podcasting get started?
Well, a guy really wanted to record sounds, and he made a device to do that.
Awesome. Great. Blah, 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 blah. Richie, what do you think? What do you think the podcasting, what do you think the history or the impact of podcasting has had on our society? Blah, 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 blah. You guys are going to have a discussion based on your research that you did. You got it? Then you are going to, what? Hey, we'll be back right after this quick commercial break from our sponsors. Give it a rest.
welcome back to the show. Richie, you were saying about, well, who is your favorite podcaster? Continue your discussion, and you're going to do this for a full 2 minutes. When you're done, you're going to hit stop, and you're going to hit save all. Now, what that did is now we can take a look back. There's our waveform, and you guys have done multi-track editing so far.
A guy really wanted to record sounds, and he made a device to do that.
Awesome. Great. Blah, 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 blah. Richie. Okay. There we go. We do a lot of blah, blah. All right. So the students then, they have, if this were Trey's project, for instance, he would have his project saved in his folder. He would have each of these files was now saved in the project folder. If we take a look where that file is, you're going to see it's located in that path for the project. Now, what we're going to do, right there, where did it go? In the project file. We're going to go and we're going to take a look at the file location on our network to ensure that they're there. And we're going to go to, in this case, it would be the student's name, but we're using our project folder as an illustration right now. Shared DMA project, student Dropbox, audio production podcast. And if I take a look inside Reaper Podcast 1, now here's what I have. There's the Reaper project. Then we have the raw wave files, individual wave files. Now what I'm going to ask the students to do, and these are just temp files and Project Peak files. So what the students are going to do is they're going to close down Reaper, save the project. They're going to, when they're done,
Okay, I forgot when I closed Reaper, we lost the audio. So what we're going to do you have it now? Where did we leave off when I closed Reaper? Okay, so you can see, looking in the Reaper podcast files, all of the original files are there. These are the individual waveforms and the individual saved Reaper project. Now, what is going to happen? Each student is responsible for editing and producing their version of that podcast. So you're just going to come in when you're done. Richie would come here to Trey's folder, right-click, copy it, and bring it over to his folder. Paste it into your project share. Make sense, Richie? Everybody understand that? Then each student on the team is responsible for opening Reaper, mixing the podcast, EQing the voice, ensuring that it's mixed appropriately and all the levels are there, adding bumper music, adding sound effects, adding transitions. Maybe you want to process the vocals. Maybe you want to add some compression or EQ, make them sound a little better. Then you're going to take your raw files that you started for the Digital Media Arts Scratch project, the commercial you made, and the Diesel, Jeff Tech Diesel program commercials that you made. You're going to re-record your own vocal in here using the audio podcasting booth, using the system and the demonstration I just did, and you're going to remix that vocal into your previously produced spot, replacing the old scratch track vocal. Does that make sense? Think we got an understanding on that? Now, and I'll be here to help you guys walk through this if you get confused. Then you're going to bring those commercials into your practice podcast and publish that full podcast as a 2-minute MP3 file. Okay? That is the task this week. And I feel absolutely certain the only challenge that we have, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the podcasting booth here and come back into the studio. Come on in, boys. So the only real challenge that I see in this, and I think Mel is big on this, she'll be with me on this. Tell me what you think the biggest challenge is going to be here, Melody.
For recording, like getting
to make this project happen. What do you think the biggest challenge is going to be?
Generally, like trying to get everything in the amount of time you have, and just making sure everything sounds good, and it kind of gets a bit overwhelming, but it's something.
Scheduling. Scheduling this is going to be the biggest challenge that you guys have. So I need you to get moving on this. We got till the end of the day, Friday. There's only one podcasting booth, so you need to be able to work together, right? The kids that are on our video production team, I'm not going to be here Friday, so we're not going to be doing a Jeff Tech Jumpstart. We've done our Digital Edge live for this week, so we're not going to be using the studio. The kids are going to be working on social media marketing and whatnot and continuing to refine our video systems and our manuals and whatnot, okay? So they can help out if Nalia is on our new video team, but one of you guys wants to have Nalia on your podcast, she's welcome to come in as a guest. She did her essay. She's going to have the content. You understand? So work together, craft your team, get in there, and catch me the next couple days if you need me to help mentor you and review what we covered here on the show, and then let's get this thing done. All right? The key here is, as Mel said, it can be overwhelming. You're managing a lot of different files. Follow the protocol. Follow the steps. Make sure that the files are saved in the appropriate location. And each student, this is key, each student is responsible for making their own edit. So whenever I listen to those final MP3 files and I look at those final Reaper files, they should be in each individual student's folder. They should look different. They should sound different. And the commercials should be individual that the students did in the previous lesson. So we understand that, right? We're not just copy and pasting the team project and saying, here's my final project, Mr. E. No, you got to produce your own. Okay? Excellent. Good job. And we can go ahead and actually, this is kind of cool. So we're going to go ahead and kill the vMix feed. And questions on this, kids? Mel, any comments?
Real quick, don't do what I did last year and accidentally save over someone else's file. Make sure that you go and check that you're saving it in the right spot.
Oh, wait a minute. There's the bell.
Yeah.
We're at lunch. All right. Let's go ahead and take us out. Give me the front scene. I'll come in there and kill it. You've been watching the Digital Edge, and it's lunchtime. I'm Mr. E here with the crew, with Paul and Mel on the stage. Great show today, guys. And Lauren, on 3, 2, 1, we'll stop the live stream. We'll see you guys on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on the Digital Edge. Next show. I'm Atero. We're out. Kill it.